In the winter of 1919, Boston was a normal American city. People went to work, children played in the streets, nothing felt dangerous. And yet, without warning, Boston was about to experience one of the strangest disasters in American history. Not fire, not war, not an earthquake, but sugar. On January 15, 1919, in the north end of Boston, a massive steel tank quietly stood beside the harbor. It was filled with over 2.3 million gallons of molasses. Molasses was valuable at the time. It was used to make industrial alcohol and rum. And this tank was poorly built. The tank had been leaking for years. So badly, in fact, that local children would bring cups and collect the molasses dripping from the sides. The company knew, the neighbors knew, everyone knew. Nothing was done. At around 12:40 p.m., the tank finally failed. There was no explosion at first, just a deep mechanical groan. Then the steel walls ripped open. A 15-foot-high wave of molasses burst into the streets of Boston, moving at over 30 miles per hour. It sounded like a train crash. Buildings were lifted off their foundations, streetcars were knocked off the tracks, people were thrown through the air, and then everything slowed down. Molasses is thick. Cold molasses is thicker. As the wave spread through the streets, it trapped everything in its path: horses, wagons, cars, and people. Some victims tried to run. They couldn't. After the streets of Boston were finally cleaned, after the bodies were buried, and after the smell of sugar slowly faded, the real disaster began. The families of the victims wanted answers, and more importantly, they wanted accountability. The company that owned the tank, the United States Industrial Alcohol Company, claimed the collapse was an act of God. They said anarchists had sabotaged the tank. This was 1919. America was afraid of radicals, afraid of immigrants, afraid of bombings. The excuse sounded believable for a while, but investigators started asking boring questions. Questions about steel thickness, about rivets, about math. And boring questions tend to ruin dramatic lies. Engineers discovered the tank was never tested while full. The steel plates were too thin. The rivets were weak. The tank had been built quickly and cheaply. There was no licensed engineer overseeing construction, no safety inspections, no emergency planning, just molasses. The trial began in 1921 and lasted nearly 6 years. Over 1,000 witnesses testified: dock workers, engineers, doctors, widows. The courtroom heard details no one wanted to imagine: how people struggled, how they suffocated.